The peace talks had been rocky from the minute the Terrans landed. Their envoy arrived stiff and silent at the gleaming, translucent tower that served as the Zirilan Union's main diplomatic hub. The spires shimmered with a deep blue glow under twin moons that hung low in the coppery sky. Captain Jalen Marr tugged at his collar, heat clinging to his skin beneath the tight uniform. This wasn't just a routine meeting. It was the very first time people from Earth had ever encountered the Zirella face-to-face. And so far, the vibe was tense. The Zirilans weren't what most had expected. Elegant and tall, their skin emitted a soft glow like jellyfish in deep ocean water. Their large, oval eyes held layers of shifting color. It was hard to tell what they were thinking, unless you were trained. Jalen wasn't. One Zirilan in particular stood apart from the rest. She was taller, her skin brighter, posture like a statue. The room seemed to bend around her presence. Her name was Sarai. Jalen noticed her immediately, even though he tried not to stare. She caught him glancing, maybe more than once. Focus, he told himself. She's an interstellar diplomat, not someone you flirt with at a station bar. But here's the kicker, Zirilans didn't just sense emotion. They read it like it was written on your forehead. And thoughts? They caught those too, if you weren't careful. Sarai tilted her head slightly. Her eyes flicked toward him, lips curling in what might have been a smile, if Zirilan smiled. His stomach dropped. Did she hear that? She moved a step closer. Eyes fixed on his. That hint of amusement deepened. Whatever was going on behind her expression, he didn't need a translation chip to figure it out. She knew. Everything. He cleared his throat. Ambassador Sarai, I apologize if my thoughts were inappropriate. She leaned in, her voice like soft wind through glass. I've heard that human minds are imaginative. You didn't disappoint. Jalen blinked. You're not angry? She laughed, more like a ripple than a sound. No, Captain. Honest minds are hard to find. Especially ones that think in pictures. Pictures? You imagined my sensory filaments wrapping around your shoulders, she said plainly, then wondered what the texture would be like on your bare skin. His mouth opened, then shut, then opened again. If he could have vanished into thin air, he would have. You give off a lot of heat, she continued, stepping close enough that he could feel a chill where her glow touched his arm. Is that normal for humans? Or just for you? Behind them, the summit rolled on. Trade discussions, orbital transport routes, tech exchanges, Jalen heard none of it. His focus was locked on the glowing woman reading his inner thoughts like a comic strip. He was trained for a lot. Politics. Survival. Interrogation under pressure. But this was new. You didn't try to offend, she said. But you were honest. Most beings avoid that. I still think it was unprofessional, he said, awkwardly. Or perhaps, she replied, you were just unfiltered in a way others are too afraid to be. He didn't have a reply. The talks moved on. A discussion about water harvesting in asteroid belts. Someone mentioned interspecies health protocols. Jalen tried to follow, but every time he looked toward Sarai, she was already looking at him, with that unreadable smile. Hours later, he found himself alone on a wide terrace overlooking the alien city. The night sky above him was crisscrossed with strange constellations, and the air carried a scent like metallic flowers. He heard light footsteps behind him. He didn't need to turn around to know who was behind him. I shouldn't have let my thoughts slip, he said, eyes still on the alien stars. It wasn't my intention to offend. You didn't, Sarai answered calmly. Her voice was soft, without judgment. You were curious. And curiosity, where I come from, is not a crime. I was all over the place, he muttered. You were being human, she said, stepping up beside him. Her hands clasped behind her back, she studied the sky with him in silence for a moment. In Zirilan society, she said at last, emotional honesty is not just accepted, it's respected. Hiding feelings is often seen as more disrespectful than sharing them, even if they're a bit unfiltered. Unfiltered, he echoed, wincing. You admired, she continued. You wondered. You were excited. That isn't shameful. You weren't violent or cruel. You simply imagined something personal. He took a breath. That's not my usual thought process in diplomatic meetings. She chuckled. I'd be concerned if it was. Then her voice softened. And for the record, you weren't the only one thinking beyond the treaty. His head turned, eyes wide. You've thought about intimacy across species? She finished. Of course, not with just anyone. And not often. But in rare cases, it's something worth exploring. He stared at her. So it's not against your laws? Your customs? It's uncommon, she said. Not taboo. The barriers are more practical than cultural. Physiology, psychology, were different. But connection doesn't only live in flesh. It can happen in thought. In intention. She shifted slightly, the soft glow of her tendrils casting delicate shadows across the terrace wall. They shimmered with pale light, moving subtly, as if stirred by his attention. Are you teasing me? He asked, trying to keep it light. Maybe, Sarai replied. Or maybe I'm just responding to the part of your mind you haven't had the courage to voice. He hesitated, then slowly extended his hand, palm up, open. She looked down at it. After a moment, she placed her hand in his. It was smoother than he expected. Stronger than it looked. A faint pulse of light ran through her skin. I don't know where this leads, he said. Her gaze met his. Then we'll find out together. Over the following days, the summit changed pace. With Sarai and Jalen working side by side, the once tense discussions began to flow more easily. Her intuitive sense of his moods made navigating delicate negotiations smoother. His openness made her laugh more than she expected. The shift didn't go unnoticed. Delegates from both species began whispering about them in side halls and private lounges. Even the Zirilan advisors murmured behind folded screens. On the final day, during the ceremonial signing of the pact, Sarai stepped forward beside Jalen as the gathered crowd of envoys, guards, and politicians watched in silence. Together, they activated the sealing crystal, their palms pressing onto the glowing plate. A quiet hum signaled the pact had been finalized. Applause rippled through the chamber. Then, in a move no one expected, Sarai leaned in and whispered, "You just had another idea." Jalen froze. "It involves me, your sleep chamber, and, what did you call it?" "Whipped cream." His face went crimson. That was a just. "Don't apologize," she said, eyes gleaming. Then, with all eyes on them, she leaned in and kissed him. Gasps rose from the Terran side. The Zirilans blinked in silence. And then, for the first time since negotiations began, the room burst into laughter. That night, Jalen lay beside her in the softly glowing habitat they now shared. His thoughts were still a little messy, but he didn't try to suppress them anymore. Sarai read them anyway. And every time she did, she smirked. Again and again. In the days that followed the treaty, something strange and wonderful settled into the space between Captain Jalen Mar and Ambassador Sarai. It wasn't love, at least not in the human sense. It wasn't just diplomacy either. It was something that shimmered just out of reach, like the shifting lights of her skin when she laughed. They became the unofficial symbol of what the Zirilan-Terran Accord stood for: bold curiosity, unguarded connection, and the rare willingness to embrace the unknown without fear. On Earth, the media spun it into a story of interstellar romance, and maybe it was. But to Jalen, it was quieter than that, more personal. It wasn't about saving the galaxy or rewriting history. It was about understanding someone who shouldn't have made sense to him and finding, to his surprise, that she did. He spent time in the Zirilan Gardens, learned to read the rhythm of their language not through words, but through tone, movement, light. Sarai, in turn, requested access to human literature. She devoured poetry first. Then thrillers. She asked endless questions about metaphors, humor, irony. She found human awkwardness charming. He found Zirilan bluntness strangely comforting. They didn't always agree. Sometimes Jalen would misread a cue. Sometimes Sarai would dig too deep into a thought he wasn't ready to share. But each time they regrouped. Listened. Learned. The world didn't change overnight, but treaties turned to joint missions. Cultural exchanges were proposed. A mixed scientific outpost was approved near one of the twin moons. And Sarai and Jalen? They remained an anomaly, but one everyone talked about. What happens when you leave? She asked him one night, her voice low as they watched the Zirilan moons trace slow arcs overhead. I don't know, he admitted. Maybe I request to come back. Or maybe you visit Earth. And they'll welcome me? He chuckled. After the treaty and the kiss? You're practically a celebrity. She tilted her head, amused. So this connection, is it real for you? He turned toward her, hand finding hers without needing to look. I don't have a name for it, but it feels real enough. Her eyes glowed gently in the darkness. We Zirilans don't always need names. We just feel and accept. The future was uncertain. The alliance would be tested. Differences would spark debate and resistance. But none of that frightened Jalen anymore. Because if he could connect with someone as alien as Sarai, and she with him, then maybe peace wasn't some distant dream. Maybe it was already here. Fragile, complicated, absolutely. But alive. The stars stretched on forever above them, endless and unknown. But in that moment, sitting beside her under the silver blue sky of a world he once feared, Jalen didn't feel so small. He felt like they'd already taken the first step into something bigger than both their worlds. And this time, he was ready for whatever came next. Together,